Hello and welcome to today's episode of Westfox. We've been gone for a while. I've been working. Everyone's been working. Life's been kind of crazy for, well, obviously the entire country on lots of different levels. But an interesting thing that popped in my brain the other day, and it's about it's a little bit of a cold start for my brothers here, because they don't totally know the topic I'm talking about. But I wanted to kind of get their opinions on it, kind of rough out of the grass for them. And the thing that came to my brain is, as we've seen with the coronavirus stuff, theaters are still closed. And there's been talk of different groups buying theaters. And in the past, it was that the studios couldn't own their theaters. They couldn't own theaters. There was a case back in the 1940s that essentially created this thing where it actually dissolved their ability to own theaters. So I guess it was called the Paramount decision. And so Paramount had owned all the theaters or owned a group of theaters at the time. And so they were considered a monopoly, et cetera, et cetera. It's amazing considering.
Yeah, it's basically, it wasn't an antitrust law, technically. It kind of followed in the same vein as an antitrust law.
Correct. So interestingly enough, back in November, Trump's Justice Department, which, probably just means whoever is in there, because I'm sure Trump could care less about this specific issue, was looking to remove that. And what I think is interesting is during this whole crisis with the coronavirus, the movie industry has been very passive, actually. I found it surprising that with the level of money and players in it, that when it comes to theaters, they've kind of been like, oh, we'll get to it when we get to it. And we've seen some limited releases to direct video on demand, right? Where you pay $20 or $30 to view the movie at your house. And a thought came to me that, well, what started the thought as well was the fact that AMC is most likely going to be filing bankruptcy, and they're also saying that most likely they're not going to survive. And I think that to me, I go, is this the reason they're not rushing? Is they're like, you know what, we're gonna buy up, I could see a Disney, or probably a Disney, the number one, or even something like Apple. I think Amazon was eyeing AMC as well for a while there, and I could see one of these companies coming in and being like, oh, now we're gonna buy these guys up, because I could see them thinking in their, why are we sharing profits with this company? We're making the movie. If this law does this whole Justice Department, I'm trying to find anything newer on it, but there's really nothing newer than this ended November articles talking about this. So I don't know if this was officially overturned, but obviously there's an intent to it. And so I could see them saying, well, the movie industry's out of business, so we're going to come make our own theaters. And that means we get the full profit. Obviously there's still costs of running the theaters, but when you look at the fact that between the theaters actually keep 40% of their thing, I guarantee you can get a theater can run cheaper than the 40% profit that they're losing from a theater for most of these movies. So I have a feeling that I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think theaters are going away, but I think the model could actually see a change here where a Disney, specifically Disney, I think Disney probably the one, and Amazon as well, because Amazon has so much money, they don't know what to do with it. So I could see them coming in there. They're dipping their toe right now into the video game market. So I could see them saying, you know what, we're going to dip our toe in here, even a Netflix, to be honest, because Netflix has had a struggle with the theaters. Because again, a lot of these studios are having struggles with the theaters, because you go back to Disney with the Star Wars movies, where they're like, if you don't show our movie enough, we're gonna essentially charge you extra money. You have Netflix fighting with the theater system because they want to release movies in theaters so they can get nominated for Academy Awards or any type of award, award shows, but they want to put it to their streaming service sooner than the theaters want. So they want to be like, the theaters want like 3 months, and they're like, we want 2 weeks essentially in theaters, and then we want to be able to put it on the actual Netflix streaming service. I don't know if Amazon's has any beef that I can think of or have read with the theater system, but at the same time,
most of their productions have been television.
Yeah,
so
and
it hasn't actually been an issue.
I could see them trying to push into the movie space.
Sure, they got, like you said, they have the money, just like Apple kind of does.
And I could see the entire movie space. The one thing in the movie space that is insane is the amount of money it burns. Like, you have these movies. You look at a movie like even specifically, you know, The Rise of Skywalker. What have $400 million spent on that movie? And regardless of the opinion of the movie, right, on the story of the movie, there's nothing special about the movie. The visual effects aren't anything special.
Nope.
There's nothing about it that's groundbreaking. It's not, you know, because a lot of times there's a lot of movies that come out and you're like, okay, the story sucks, but the visual effects are amazing. Like the best example of that is, you know, Avatar, not the Airbender, but Avatar, with the blue people. You know, the story was boring. I didn't enjoy it, but I till this day, I still think that the 3D visual effects are still almost unmatched. I think the 3D work they did in that movie was very well done in the realization of it. I don't think many movies have done as well of a job as since then even. But, you know, these movies have gone into, you know, these massive bloat budgets. And the same things happen with the video game industry. You know, there's been a little bit of controversy with Bobby Kotick with Activision, you know, because he's racking in, you know, $30 million a year plus, you know, actual salary plus another $20 million a year in essentially bonuses and stock options and stuff. And
Whoever negotiates these guys' deals, I need to put on a retainer because you'd think for people who are so nitpicky and who try to suck money out of every single transaction and thing that you do in video games, you'd think they'd be better at negotiating salaries and contracts with
he's
people.
making tons of money.
It's so weird.
Bobby Kotick is worth like $7 billion, man. No, the reason
Fox, that I don't want to stop you.
Yeah.
But it just in general, like I am like 15 seconds behind on the video from you guys.
Let me see if I can.
It is like it is completely throwing me off here. So I'm like sitting there going like looking at it and I can see
I'll
like I am really bad. That might be a little bit hyperbolic, but it's like I saw myself reach for coffee. Like I grabbed for coffee. I look at my screen. I'm sitting there going, still give my nod.
It, and put it down,
then,
picked his nose, and all of a sudden he's finally grabbing his coffee.
I'll
and then
lower
I'm
the
finally
resolution
grabbing it,
down.
and I was like, oh man, okay.
I lowered the resolution down there, so hopefully that was connected up.
Yeah, well, because I think we raised it when it was just you and I because Philip just dragged us all down.
He does have bad internet where he lives. But so continuing though, you know,
It'll get better.
You have said some of these people
It'll get better.
making huge sums. Well, the thing about it, Philip, is it's not. I don't have a problem with people making money at all.
No,
the question
as long as they produce.
Yes, the producing I think is the real question, because specifically Activision, you know, they fired that, you know, almost 1,000 people saying, you know, they had that huge profit of the year where they were able to pay out Bobby Kotick and, you know, the higher level people, and they're like, oh, we're gonna fire 1,000 people on the spot, right? And you're like, okay, yes. There's obviously an issue here with the way management's running. And the reason it's become an issue is because they said stockholders are going, wait a second, how is this guy making so much money when you're having these kind of structural managerial issues inside the companies, right? I mean, you know, Activision used to be considered a really good company, but I don't think anybody talks positively about Activision anymore. I mean, look at how Bungie and all that was handled with them. I mean, and not saying Bungie's doing a very good job either with, you know, all these companies have been leached out and are no longer run by creatives. You know, let's say even business-minded creatives,
which is
they're run
I agree,
by,
which is incredible. It's only taken 20 years. I mean,
well,
if you think about it, Halo.
That's because there's so much money in it, man.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's true.
The video game industry,
exactly,
is worth. I think the video game industry is worth, I believe, 3 times what Hollywood's worth. And so that's why.
Really?
Yeah, it's worth like
wow.
It's huge money. They sneak in under the radar. That's why it's crazy, because the video game industry, you know, they pretend on the surface level, you know, in the sense of like the media space, they're like, we're the kind of the nerdy people that, you know, the quiet kid in the corner. Yeah, but you don't realize the quiet kid in the corner has a huge amount of money that they're just hiding behind their, you know, in their backpack type thing, that they're, you know, they're just rolling in cash. That's why the whole microtransactional space, when they're like, oh, Destiny needs more microtransactions, you're like, what do you mean? You made like $500 million last year on the game through that and microtransactions, and your DLC sucks. It's why I don't even play the game anymore, is because it turned into, oh, pay us money every single couple months to do bounty quests. And I'm like, no, I don't. I want story, and you know, I don't want it to play. You know, and everything's time gated now too. But they're like, you need to play 40 hours a week to keep on top of this game. I'm like, no, thank you. I mean, you saw I don't know how Christopher might have paid attention to this, but you know, they were doing that whole like quest thing where they're like the whole community must do 9 million bounties or something like that. And I'm like, or 9 million.
Oh,
like,
I didn't even know. I probably dropped off it like well before that because I just the biggest thing for me is too is the worst part is half of the stuff you were getting then at that point wasn't like new, it was cosmetic stuff. So you're getting a different colored piece of armor and you're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to put in 40 hours to get a paint job on my on my chest piece.
Like I get
like
I'm not an armor
like sometimes
chaser.
it's cool, but it's like I don't think I've ever had like a complete set of anything because I don't care.
I know, me either. And I know that's a complete segue, but what comes down is the money business, right? It's all about money.
Yeah.
So the reason it kind of, to me, loops around is the industry for twofold, because they're seeing their possibility for more money. Also, I actually believe they love that there's less transparency in it, because the one thing that the theaters do is they report how much money a movie makes. And I think they hate that. I actually think the industry has reached a point due to people, really in-depth analyzing movies. Like we've done some stuff with the analyzation of movies, like if they're making the money back on it. And I actually believe they hate that. I think that they despise the fact that people like us and people who are even better at doing it are able to go, wait a second, this movie made no money based upon the viewership. But they can do, when it's all digital, if it's through their own platforms and everything, they can roll it into the profit statements, kind of like Apple does with even little things like the Apple TVs. They no longer release those numbers. They're like, yeah, it's just part of the TV space, right? And so you look at all these companies now, and they
don't want metrics to be judged on.
Correct.
I mean,
and
they don't want criticism, and because they want only criticism to be able to be subjected by saying, I think you suck. And they can go, we'll point to the evidence, and you go, well, you're hiding it.
Right. It's easy to, it can blend things. Like, oh, it's the entertainment sector of this. Oh, okay. Well, we didn't really lose, and especially in the
movies. And I don't want to stop you again, but can you see that I've just, like, now you can start seeing me talking from when I originally started talking on the screen.
Well, goodness. I don't know what to do at that. You're just going to be out of sync with us. Continuing back into it now that we have our networking issues figured out, possibly. The interesting thing, I said, it's all about money, right? In the end, and that's why I'm like, do they want to own all this stuff? Do they want maybe to go straight to digital? Because they see they can keep more profits, right?
I would.
It's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, to me, there is a level of concern to it, only because from business savvy wise, it makes sense. That's why I think it is a high possibility. I think for the average consumer, he goes, oh, is there going to be Disney theaters now that only show Disney movies, right? They monopolize that space. Is it, oh, we have to go to, and that was the original reason, I think, behind the law in the first place. So would it be that they could be like, like I said, I think the whole theater experience needs to be reset anyway. People are in their phones, people have their watches on, they don't turn on the theater mode in their watches or their phones. I mean, I've had more, the last couple of years, the whole theater experience has declined. And that's not anecdotal. I think across the board, people are just people are ruder inside of theaters. They go there not to just have an hour and a half movie. They go there because they're like, I'm gonna play my video games on my phone right now.
There's just no respect for your fellow man.
True. Yeah.
It's just they're saying, I came here to have my experience. I paid my $40 to get me and my girl in here. I mean, I think there's one thing that's frustrating is
she's gonna play on her phone, or he's gonna play on his phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, dude.
But I'm gonna go there, and I think that's one of the other big problems that I think for theaters just in general is, as the experience has gone down, they've added gimmicks, and the prices have only gone up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
like
the
I
home
said, $40 is honest. Like if you're going to the afternoon show or anything past the matinee, so you're not getting the special prices, you're looking at $40 if you're going to.
Well, and and on top of that, the home experience has improved so much over the last, especially 10 years.
Exactly.
Now you can buy a TV that, perspective-wise, is as big as the biggest screens. Now, and that's
See, this is kind of where I was going and thinking. Removing those restrictions, I think, isn't going to be a problem because of the technological advances that we've made. It makes all television shows and movies readily available. A movie can come out, and 2 weeks later, you could either find it on Apple somewhere, or you can find it on Netflix or Hulu if you're willing to pay the additional amount of money per month. some of that stuff is so readily available, and maybe in a short term, people would start to compete a little more heavily and become a little more less willing to distribute. But eventually, like you said, if you make a Disney theater, so you're going to put a Disney theater in every city. You're going to put a Disney theater in every place and only play Disney. Are you alienating a group of people that could come see your movies? What would be the point of doing that?
It seems very restrictive.
Yeah, exactly.
On their
When you
profit
don't
model
have
to just say, I'm only going to have Disney stuff, because it's like,
well, you'd have, and that's where it would come into is, can you be like, okay, Disney owns this theater, but do they, in the second part of that is like, oh, okay, they own it, but they also might not only own it, but also say we can also bring other movies. So like Paramount's like, well, we're gonna.
What I would say will really determine that will be to see how they use their streaming, since every major studio is creating some type of streaming service, and in the past everyone's mixed and shared. But now we'll see if they do or don't, or if after time they're willing to reopen that up. And that'll probably really influence on whether, if they do start to own theaters, they do. But to come back to the second point, I completely agree. Removed from the rude people inside of a theater, what movie would you want to see in theaters that you think would make a big enough impact to say, man, I'm so glad I saw that in theaters? Personally, for me, it would only be nostalgic movies, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. The only two things I'd ever want to see back on the stage. We've seen so
Indiana
many things
Jones.
Indiana Jones. We've seen so many things in our youth that have been big and bold. The whole going into a theater and being blown away, I don't think that experience is ever going to exist again for human beings, because we've seen, like you said, Avatar, entire landscapes recreated. Is there really something that someone could show on screen where you would say, man, I really wish I'd seen that in theaters?
I do believe that exists. I think the experience people enjoy. It's just like people do enjoy, because you gotta remember, it's not just seeing the movie. It's also getting out of the house. It's the getting out of the house, kind of cool theater. Sometimes you want to drink. There is an experience level to it, right? In history, people do enjoy going out and doing things. So now the quality of the material they're seeing, that is, I think, a lot the downgraded part of it. On a lot of it, you're not getting some of that, that's the whole idea, right? The summer popcorn flicks, right? That's why usually in August, July and August, you get the bombastic movies that aren't usually, that's why the Transformers did good in August. They would have never done as well as they do in like January or any other month. They did well in August and July, because people are like, you know what? I just want to go see explosions and bad acting and drink some soda and eat some popcorn in the theater. They're not movies that I don't think anybody went to because they're like excited about, in the sense of like,
I would say there's almost
Go ahead.
I'd say there's almost like two arguments kind of like at play, though, because I think there's both. Yes, like there's this, they're saying, hey, I just want to go out to the movies, which is its own thing. But I think, to Hound's point, the other side is kind of like that. What's the next step in enjoying, like, in entertainment, and kind of what's the next like really big thing that really gets people like, wow? And I think personally for me, my answer would be it's kind of that point when we're finally included in it. It is the holodecks. To me, it's kind of like the honestly the next big thing that would be like, that's how you get more into a movie, is if you're more in it.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like maybe still
like
as a
VR.
spectator and maybe not so much of it, but it's like, I feel like that really would be the next place though that's going to bring entertainment. It's like, wow, this is the new big thing that's really changed me. But I agree with what Southhound's saying. It's like, at least in the sense of what the experience is, like what you're saying, Fox, yes, there's just enjoying the experience. But at the end of the day, then but then it's like, but what's the like? What would be the next true escape from something?
Well, it has to be,
is getting it to be included in the story,
which is an argument of
that's a video game though.
Which,
I mean, because the problem you go into is you can't have 30, let's say 100 people in a theater experience their individual story.
Well, like I said, I'm not saying exactly that, it's going to be each person's like getting into the individual story and getting to share it together as that. I'm just saying maybe more like there's physicality involved. You're more immersed.
I mean, they have the
that's an argument of the cultural change in people. I would say would be what we're trying to decide here. We have to decide, are consumers going to become more discerning with the media that they're watching? And if they are, is that going to prohibit them from wanting to spend the additional cost of going to a theater, buying the overpriced popcorn and the overpriced candy for the experience, or is it going to actually take a really important or well produced or some type of unique event that will finally draw people back out?
Well,
Because the culture is going to change in 20, 30, 40 years. It's significantly different than it was in, say, the 40, 50, 60-year-old generation when they went to the movies and got to see a movie for $1.50.
well, but also the
popcorn for 10
comparative
cents.
And did the double feature.
But the comparative difference also too was what was available at your house, right? That is the difference too. In the last couple of years, we've had three different things. First of all, you've had the decline of theaters in the sense of quality, movies and quality. You've had what's available through TV services, Netflix, HBO, creating material that is near cinematic value, both acting and production value. And then you have just the fact that now you can go buy essentially a 65-inch TV for under $1,000. You probably and on sales you might be able to get like a 75-inch TV for under $1,000, and that's
even inexpensive audio that's realistically
for
quality.
Under $2,000. Let's say you have 3 or 4 kids. For let's say even under $1,500, you can have your house rattle with bass and have a 75, 80-inch TV. And
tick off your neighbors.
Well, yeah, to if you live in an apartment or not. But you can sit there and relative,
even a house,
right? And relative to your where you're sitting from it, that TV's gonna feel as big as a theater screen. And obviously, there is a level of scale that a theater brings to you. IMAX. I mean, I do enjoy some movies in IMAX. I do. We have an IMAX where I live, and I do enjoy going to see those when I can. You guys have them in.
I know.
I think you have them where you guys are.
Yeah, we do. We do it Sparks. There's nothing been worthwhile to watch in an IMAX and pay the extra $1 for, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, that's like $5 more here. But anyway, so that's kind of like what brought the whole thing. Like I said, I wonder, because again, like I said, the business is not making money, and I wonder if there's these producers out there going, you know what, we keep paying these actors, Bright is the example that I use a lot of times, because I think that the movie was $100 million budget or $90 million budget, and they paid Will Smith like $50 million for it, and they're like that's so much money. You're like, you look at the Bond movies, and yeah, I really like Daniel Craig's interpretation of Bond. I think he's a great Bond, but is he worth $250 million to play the character?
No, he's not that good.
For 2 more movies, and I think these
no actor is that good. No actor, when you see them on the screen, you're brought into a different character.
I think there are. I think there
200
are.
million's insane.
I think there's a couple actors with certain characters that are worth it. There's only a few. I would say, and not the $250 million. I think the $250 million is ridiculous.
That's absurd.
That's for multiple movies. Yeah. Let's say how many actors are worth? Let's say $100 million a movie. I'd say.
I would say 0.
I think there's a couple. I would actually say that Johnny Depp in like the Pirates movies, not the 5th one now, right? Because now we're at like the 6th. But in the character himself, what he created with that, I don't think anybody can replace him for that. I think that
he did create an iconic character.
I think that Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is pretty irreplaceable. It eventually will happen. But I think he owns that one really, really well, and that's the reason.
I'd say less so, but he does do a good job.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think who else.
Hugh Jackman for Wolverine.
Yeah.
You'll never replace me.
He's a hard one to replace.
But here's the thing, though. Even saying that they might be irreplaceable in a part, those wouldn't be actually the people.
I didn't mean irreplaceable.
Well, I was going to say
that's still irreplaceable.
That wasn't the people in my. I was going to say, but that's not the people in my mind that I would think be worth like that. Maybe, yeah. Like the people on my list would probably be someone like, if I was going to pay someone $100 million for their acting, it's going to be something emotional and great, and it's going to be Anthony Hopkins. Or someone of like, that would be the person I go, you know what, I want you for this, or you're going to give me, I know you're going to be able to give me the star performance, and this is what you're worth. But for the other people, they're paid for it to give mediocre. Well, they're paid for it just to be like, well, yeah, but just be you. And you're like,
but if
you're going to pay people the big bucks, and they better be worth the big bucks.
And I agree. And the main
not
crux
a good plan. Not a good plan.
Right. But the main crux of my argument is, I'm saying that there's a few of them, but let's say there's under.
Well, and I agree.
And let's say there's,
like I said, there's some that I agree.
5.
I think
there's 5 to 10
caliber.
actors out there who who are worth that kind of money, but the majority aren't.
How does it go from under 5 to 5 to 10?
Well,
I know,
because I'm sure there's someone I'm not thinking about. You know, I'm just saying. I'm giving buffers because you know there's people.
Not even a logarithmic projection gives you that far. Yeah.
Well,
I would say 2, probably 2.
Well, there's
realistically.
but my point is that let's say there's a handful of actors out there that are worth that
longevity
kind of money.
is a requirement.
But
just because they've done something good once or twice doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's why
it's an issue of longevity.
You have a Daniel Day-Lewis, right? Daniel Day-Lewis, you know. Tom Hanks.
I knew you were gonna say him.
Tom Hanks. I mean,
Tom Hanks.
He's like look at Woody. Like how much money he's made Pixar for Woody.
But he wasn't. That's voice acting. It's a completely different medium.
It's still fit. You can't.
Someone designed his character for him.
He's still the voice of it. He's still making
the mannerisms,
you gotta think,
the movement,
but he still had
to.
He still had to have the voice of it to match it. Because like, could you imagine if he's supposed to be having like
toy? You gotta think.
Yeah, now imagine that if it was like you are a toy and some milquetoast dude doing it. I don't care what the arms are flailing
on the storyboard.
Doesn't matter.
If you had to go, yes, it does. Someone else has created that character. He just applied his voice. Well, if you were going to go that way, I would say Andy Serkis, if anything.
Oh, no, Andy Serkis
great.
Okay, see,
and his physicality that created a character. It wasn't like Tom Hanks moved around with the little balls to create Woody.
Did Phil just add another character to our list of growing list?
Yeah, look at that.
Look at that.
See that? With that, Philip, it went from under 5.
Yes,
and that's why Joel had to change it from 5 to 10.
I still wouldn't $100 million. He did great work on one movie.
More than one.
That's it. That's my point.
I mean,
more than one.
He honestly helped build a whole new like style, and so I mean, he's a forerunner. He did
Faceimation. Sure, I agree with that.
Anyway, the point is the larger scale element is that I wonder if you took the clout of a studio and you said, my goal here is to make an amazing movie for as inexpensively as possible without going like crazy, right? Find some good actors who are relatively unknown.
It's so hard to watch.
Which do exist.
With Shepard talking in the computer.
I know.
It's so distracting.
Well, you're off. You're off too.
We'll figure it. Right.
Yeah. You're off. You're off for me too, Philip. So it's like I'm sitting there too, looking between the two of us, going.
So
you're on, Joel. You're fine.
Because if you look at like a movie like, you look at a movie like Joker, right? $50 million budget.
Right.
You telling me they couldn't have had another $50 million in there for some insane visual effects and stuff like that? You know, if it was needed, obviously that would kind of contradict the story space. But in the right hands, like that Joker would be terrifying. You guys saw Joker, right?
Yeah.
Like I would, it's a sad the DCEU is just continuing to swirl the toilet. Because slight segue here. So we talked about this briefly last video. And we generally agreed. You guys haven't seen it yet, but my thing was that they're doing the Snyder Cut. We talked about them releasing the Snyder Cut, and my opinion on it was why? Like why do people think it's good? Now, what I don't agree with... Money! Well, what I don't agree with is the media then attacked the fans saying, how dare the fans demand something? And they went after the fans, and I'm like, wait a second.
Oh, yeah.
I have no problem saying the movie makes no sense that people think it's good, but it's not toxic fandom is the reason that the movie's getting done. It's because they want to make money because there's a group of people out there who want to pay for it. And they want to... They want to encourage them to come to HBO Max. Like that's not
but for the shill media, that's losing their clout.
Well, and that's what's hilarious. And so I just wanted to be just precise on that, saying
just
my dislike of what Justice League, the Snyder Cut's probably going to be this terrible movie. I don't know how they're going to make something good from it. I know there's groups out there who think it's going to be
apparently they're turning into a series now. It's not even a movie. They're turning to like a
and here's the thing, what's hilarious is because all these like directors start coming out of the woodwork going, we talked about this briefly on our other video, we're talking about the Snyder Cut, where all these directors start coming out of the woodwork going, we need director cut of our movies because ours was actually not. It would have been better if we had our director's cut.
I said that was going to happen.
Well, you know what happened? You know what's hilarious? I think it was a higher
Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
It was Ghostbusters.
No, but even Birds of Prey, the director, and the both the Birds of Prey director and the guy who did Suicide Squad,
Rowan?
we're both like,
Oh,
yeah, we need our director's cut to these so we can make them better. And it was literally, I think it was one of the higher people
Admitting defeat.
Well, here's the thing.
Admitting defeat.
One of the people
in your own product.
Yes. Well, the higher people at Warner Brothers was like, this is not a thing what's going to be happening. They like literally put the kibosh on it. They're like, no.
That's
the
awesome.
Snyder Cut's a special thing for this movie. My thing that I think is hilarious is like, wait a second, like DCEU, like, because obviously they've actually officially at one time denounced that name, saying that's not their official name, but we're going to call it the DCEU. And what's hilarious is, so you have them making a Batman movie with what's his face, right? Is it Ryan?
Right.
No. Robert Pattinson.
Pattinson.
Who doesn't
little
want to
shiny shines in the sunlight.
who doesn't want to work out for the movie? Who doesn't want to work out? He bitches and complains
Oh,
about.
I heard that.
He doesn't want to work out for it. He bitches and complains
Yeah,
about how hard it is to
Joel.
be Batman. It's hilarious. So you have this over
He
here.
hasn't even done anything yet.
And you're going, really? You're Batman.
Kick his butt out.
Like one of the most, like, if someone
Iconic characters of all time.
Yeah.
People would give their right leg to play Batman in any type of environment, movie, television, short series, anything.
The fact that the fandom already hated him being there.
Majority of it.
I mean, it's like no one wanted him to be there, and then he's going to be there, and then he's going to complain. It's like, jackass,
people thought
get
Ben
out of
Affleck
there.
was going to be bad. People
Yeah.
thought
He
Ben
tried.
was going to be bad for Batman. Yeah, I agree. At least he tried. This guy is like, I don't even want to look athletic like they did in the 70s because they didn't, it wasn't like Adam West was running around looking good. And you're like, you did. I mean, for 70s fit, that was fit.
Yeah, and that is a difference too.
His
It's hard
voice is
throwing it
what
back.
makes,
Well, and it's hard going back.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman. Hey, where's Belle? Where's Bella?
That's like you've seen the Friends, right? Friends?
Yeah, like
the
the
TV
Joe
show Friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is hilarious to see shows in the 90s where like a guy will take his shirt off and he's pretty much in the same shape that I am. Like he probably does.
Tom Selleck is a perfect example.
Yeah, like they have
6'7".
They have a little bit of belly. Like they're not like the current actors do look like Chris Hemsworth, right? And you're like, oh yeah, you
7% body fat. When 6 or 7% body fat.
When a bullet will bounce off their belt, off their abs, literally, they're like, yeah, we can take that. Yes, it's different. And you know what? And again, I said this where I'm like, I don't expect you to have to gain 100 pounds of muscle, Pattinson. I don't expect you to be so huge.
Because we know you can't, little wussy.
Yeah, I don't think it's his style. But I do expect you to at least look like you could, fight someone off for 5 or 10 minutes without passing out and dying.
Look like a little girl, right?
And
I just can't believe that.
No, actually, that's a relative comparison. Actually, is you look at some of those MMA fighter women, like their stamina level, they would like. I mean, their stamina level when they're doing this stuff, yeah, they're not going to fight against the guys because the guys are just bigger. But their stamina level to do what they're doing is impressive. Like they're gonna do some damage.
Woman v woman, it's very impressive, no doubt.
Yeah, and so the level of stamina. Yeah. I mean, they're hitting hard. I mean, like I said, an average person getting hit by him would hurt. I mean,
any normal dude off the street's not going to walk up to a woman MMA fighter and go, "I got you."
Especially the stamina level. That would be the thing I think would be hilarious. I would love to see that only because if you think about it, a guy that doesn't work out, let's just say an average guy at the street who just does their normal, not let's not say overweight or anything, just an average guy, right? In shape relatively, right? He's going to be able to
rounds of shape.
He's going to do about 30 seconds of punches and she'll block those.
Yeah, that's going to be over.
And then he's doing a swing and it's like this.
Block, it won't be a block, it'd be dodging.
Okay, dodging too. Either one. I don't care. You're going to be so tired
so fast. A man hitting a woman, no matter how well trained she is still a man hitting a woman.
I disagree with that.
Yes. Physiologically, it's not even in the same planet.
I'm not talking a professional, Philip. I'm not talking a professional.
Even non-professional.
No.
Yes. There's a reason why weight classes are so tight when it comes to men. Even having 5 to 7 pounds difference in striking is that much heavier when you're getting punched. There's a reason for that.
Like I said, person on the street.
Now, I agree with the stamina issue. Of course, somebody who's trained is going to be able to last 4, 5, 6 minutes, and the guy is going to be winded in 30 seconds. Like you said, an average person. I completely agree with that.
Well, at least we halfway agree. That's pretty rare.
Still though, a string being against
me. Oh my God, it's freaking winning day. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Christopher.
but still,
It just means you're not full wrong for once.
Oh, not good. Excellent. Westfox is
a string
not
being
fully
still
wrong.
taking some strong hits by a stronger woman who has honed her skills is still going to take damage.
Oh yeah.
Like
It
Yeah,
hurt.
you know,
And it gets
like,
down
but
to
I agree with you.
but
Like,
we're
no
still
matter
arguing
what,
Pattinson. It comes back down to Pattinson. I can't believe he had the entitlement to say that publicly.
Oh,
I mean,
it's so weird.
that's
and
something
you,
you'd think
and you
you'd
see
say
the foot. He did the photo
help
shoot in
and
his
your
hotels.
friends.
Did you see the photo shoot they did? Because they literally were like,
No, I don't care enough.
I don't look at dudes.
Is he because it was on the thing? So I mean, literally, he looks like me. His arms look like
Gotcha.
mine. Like,
Right?
I'm like, come on. Again, it's one of those things where like I've seen guys who, if you've ever been to a rock climbing gym, like there's those guys who just rock climb, right? They're not very big,
Right.
but they can pull their body weight. They can pull their entire body weight up on a couple fingers.
Well, did
Grip.
you ever?
Yeah, strength is super important. It's incredible.
Well, and that's what I'm
Because
saying.
I think we all three had him, but do you guys did you guys ever see Mr. Mytol without his like lab coat on?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, he was ripped.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you see that and you're like, holy crap, because then you just see all this lean muscle that he's just like, and you're like, that all works. That's not like just fake crap. That's kind of just like, it looks great. You're like,
when you're
oh
having
man, like
when you're hanging your
that's
life off the
usable
side of a
lean muscle.
mountain from 2,000 feet, and the fact, and you're
Oh,
like,
did he tell you that story too? When he smacked himself in the face with a rock and he
Well, that's
ended
why he
up
broke
having to
his
hammock
ankle.
himself in for 2 days?
well, he broke.
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Poop in a bag.
Oh,
That's
it's-
hilarious.
poop in a bag and throw it off the mountain.
It's so bizarre. Rock climbing is
Such a good, all three of us,
bizarre.
we all got the
It's-
story. It's
rock
great.
climbing is one of those
It's a
things
bizarre
that
skill.
it's an amazing thing on a certain level, but then like there's a secondary stuff that when they're like, yeah, we sleep on the mountain, and you're like, so you sleep on a little ledge, and you hope it doesn't.
No,
Like-
not even a little ledge.
No, sorry,
They'll
no,
nail in.
little
They'll
tent-
nail
yeah,
in their
sorry,
hammock.
yeah,
Little
hammock.
nail in
Sorry,
tent things.
I misspoke,
You're like, oh,
but-
it's just that one point holding us up.
And you're like,
Yeah, no, I couldn't sleep well. Every
I
little
mean,
creak.
I guess it's
Oh,
gorgeous,
God.
you know, but I'm just like, you know, or
Yeah,
the crazy
not for
ones.
me.
It'll be
The crazy
it'll be
ones are the
gorgeous
free
looking at that
climbers.
ground as you're going.
The ones that are even crazier are the free climbers, who are like 1,000
Yes,
feet
those
up.
people
and
are
then,
insane.
like, there's a certain level
Yeah,
of like,
that's
Have you guys seen? I think it was on Netflix or it's Hulu. I think it is like
that's crazy.
Free Solo, and it is like a documentary of a guy who is just doing like free climbing the whole way up. It is crazy.
it's a special type of crazy.
I mean, you have
It's
to
a
have
special
some
type of crazy.
brass ones.
No, you have to have
Yeah.
none because
I mean,
you
I-
can't take the extra weight.
I see what you did there.
No, but legitimately, yeah. No, like you
Yeah.
you have to have a little bit. I have to say you have to have a little bit of a lobotomy emotionally.
Yep.
I mean, I've never met anybody who does it, and I said full respect to that skill level, but no, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine hanging off from that high and being
I
like,
can't even go up a rock wall without getting with a bungee cord connected to me without getting the little trepidation when I'm only 4 feet up.
no, you know,
can't
you know
even
the crazy.
imagine
You know,
trying
the-
to do
I had.
you ever done
Come
the
on,
rock
guys.
walls with the harness?
I have a problem going. I have a problem going up those little tiny ones at playgrounds.
Do you ever done the ones when you do where the rope assists and you go to the top of it and you have to jump off the wall to go down?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hate those ones.
That's so fun, but it is terrifying. You're like, you look down and
Yeah,
you're like
it
50,
really
you're like
is.
50 or 60 feet off the ground, and they're like, yes, just push off the wall, and you're like,
So I gotta disagree with both of you on that one. That's my favorite part.
oh no, it's so
It's
fun.
fun.
But I
It's
I have no
terrifying.
fear. I have no fear on that one. I
Well,
really
once you've
don't. I'm
done it,
always like,
It's
the time
the
to
first
go.
time. Well, it's the first time because the first time you're like,
Nah.
no, it's the first time. Once it's good. The
Yeah,
first time for me is
I'm
always
with
like,
Westfox. The first time you're like, what if this is the time?
well,
What
and,
if this is the
and
one
you never
that
know.
breaks?
The tricky thing too is because different ones. Some have like a 1 foot drop before it
Yes.
gets in there, and other ones,
Oh yeah.
and other ones are like super smooth all the way through. And so when you get on the
That's
ones
why-
with the 1 foot drop, you're like, yeah, and it's like, and
That's
you're
why
like,
I prefer a
you should be
belayer.
doing the.
I don't like the auto belays. I have an actual belayer.
Yeah,
When we do
they
those
don't-
ones
I
because it's
don't
far
mind-
more
I-
comforting.
Yeah, I like the auto blaze. I think they're hilarious. Anyway, totally off topic, but that was funny. So yeah, that'll wrap up today's little top up movie theaters. I said it's I'm calling this out ahead of time. Really, that's what brought this up. 'Cause I was like, you know what? Let's discuss this a little bit, give our thoughts, because I think that the industry is going to change here, and I think that I do find it interesting that it was November and December when this stuff started with the Trump Justice Department changing the movie industry. I find that interesting, especially since that
Well,
was
here's
around
the
the time
question
that
for the day,
coronavirus
then.
in China. Yep, go ahead.
Right? Ooh, you shouldn't have said that.
No, it's fine. It's true.
You
That's-
can say that. I thought beer bug. You had to.
No, I can say
kind
it.
of-
I said it. You can say it now.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I was going to say. So then, what's the takeaway? Then, positive or negative for the next 5 years?
It's hard to say because the reason I say that is because it depends. I believe it depends who buys them or does their own thing. I think depending on the company and how they handle it, it could be a net positive or a net negative. I think the other thing that's going to be
Okay,
tricky.
you're gonna sit on the fence. That's
well,
helpful.
yeah, I will, and because it
Your
is
balls hurt.
It's because the level, right? It's because
No,
the level.
he's got. He took the brass ones from the free climbers.
Yeah, they're
right.
settled in. But that's but legitimately, it's hard to predict who own. It depends who buys. If it does buy, somebody does buy them, and I think that the tricky thing is too, are they hiding behind stuff, right? Because there's a bunch of movies that are going to probably go straight to video on demand, like Mulan, which probably had a high chance of flopping, right? And they're going to be able to hide some of these movies that we actually were predicting, earlier in the year, of probably losing them money or not making very much. And so you look at a movie like I said, what's the slate that Disney has? It's a ton of remakes, just remake after remake after remake after remake. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has a high potentiality of going woke and going then broke.
95% possibility.
Yes, it's highly, from what's been
Yeah.
said and what's been stated by people in it. It seemed to, you look at something.
What's been seen.
Look at
If it walks like a duck, if it smells like a duck, and it quacks like a duck.
right.
No.
Well, and have you seen,
a dog.
Recently there was conversation about Cowboy Bebop, and they're like, oh, we gotta change Faye's Valentine's costume because it's
Yeah,
offensive.
that's right.
And you're like, oh, okay. So the character who is seductive and uses her looks to manipulate people around her, and
Will now
is
be in a
talent-
Hillary Rodham Clinton pantsuit instead.
yes, and
because-
who is very talented at what she does. Like the reason she's a threat because she's both. She seduces people, but also she is very physically skilled as well as aside of that space. So now they're like, no, she'll seduce them with math questions. Because she's smart. And you're like, yes, we know she's smart because the character's whole thing was that she was very clever.
Yeah,
but
man,
we can't have
so
that.
dumb.
We can't have an attractive woman wearing, any level of revealing clothing because that's not empowering anymore. That was the old
No.
Hollywood. That was not longer empowering. And
That's
and
right.
because every story, because that's what they're going to ruin next. I mean
Because that's something that's not used in society, or women have never used their feminine wiles and attractive clothing to
Ooh,
advantage
right.
themselves.
Now-
That's misogyny.
Yes.
How dare you?
Now- and
we are
so-
going
and
to
that's what we're
remove
gonna
you
see.
from this platform.
I didn't say
And that's what-
I
no.
didn't say
And
I
that's
was.
what we're gonna
I didn't say I was looking.
And that's what we're going to see next.
I just said it was happening.
I think they've almost finished strip mining the comic book
Oh, don't say
industry.
strip. Goodness. Not after all
no.
this.
But they're going to, I think they're getting
No, I
close to
agree
strip
with you.
mining the
Anime's
American.
next.
And anime,
Yeah.
and the problem with that is, well, the unfortunate
piss
thing is
off everybody.
the anime is so good. There is so much good anime. I know Phil hasn't watched a lot, but I was just watching this one, so I'll tell you a little side story here. I was watching one called Mui Tenchi. Tenchi Muye. Wait, Tenchi Muye. Right? No, I'm messing it up. Tenchi. And Tenchi Moyo. And the scientific, like the technology, the technology in this anime is so freaking cool. And it's not even the main plot of the stuff. Like it's not even the technology isn't really like the main plot of the story, but because it's like kind of an early harem type show. But the technology is so advanced. They're like, oh yeah, it's no big deal that we have intergalactic spaceships. Oh, it's no big deal that we talk about like people owning planets for their personal havens. Like the level of technology this different human kind of races inside this galaxy deal with, they like transport around like it's no big deal. They don't even like have to like even be like, beam me up, Scotty. They're just like, see you guys, and they're just gone. Like the ship designs, and so the technology is great. The ship designs are freaking gorgeous in this show. Like I just had to go through and do some screenshots in the future when I do a review on the show. But the
and when they do it live action, they'll be cut and paste like
they'll be garbage. No, this stuff has all this great, you know, and a lot of anime does it, but it has these great angles and weird shapes and all this stuff. They have these they have these ships that are literally like planets, and they have like, you know, they're almost like halos. Actually, I think Halo was inspired by this show.
Really, Shield Worlds and all.
Yep. Oh no, for real.
Pretty cool.
I wonder if I can find it here.
Well, maybe we should save this one for our harem topic.
No, well, I just want to show you really fast. What do you say?
Okay.
He's the leader.
He's the leader.
Let's see.
Wait. Shield World.
And the problem is too, we've already had I think almost every anime that's been adapted into a live action or that's come into Hollywood space or some kind of series has been trash, or it's been trashed in by the fans. Like they're like, nope, this was crap, or there was something wrong with it. I mean, clearly for us, we all know of the unspoken movie that never happened, or you will go to Lake Laogai.
I mean, look at
right.
Take a trip to Lake
look at how cool that
Laogai.
is. I mean,
There was
can you
never
see
any
that?
live action. Oh, here, let me get
That's cool.
my picture smaller so I can see it.
I mean, I know it's it's high.
Oh,
res.
yeah, I
Like-
see. There's a ring and a planet.
Well, that's not that's just an example of the different ships in the show. I'll send you guys a screenshot later. We'll do a review on. I'll talk about it. But I'm just
Yeah,
showing you like
the quality is pretty poor on our side, so it's actually hard to see the stuff.
well, you can kind of see the outline, right?
I can see the shape.
Yeah, I can see the outline. Yeah, I
Okay.
can see the shape.
I'm just saying.
It's a really
Looks
cool
like a certain
Rorschach.
flower and a certain
Well, here's the
crappy
thing.
Star
So
Trek
this is
Picard
what-
episode that was really stupid.
Right, and that's my point. I'm just saying like there is some legitimately like this little creature here. Can you see it?
Barely.
Let's see if it opens.
Looks
up.
like a rat with what looks like a bat rat with eyes.
Let's see. So this is
It's
actually
evil Momo.
so this is actually the
Evil
ship.
Oh.
Momo.
This is actually
Oh.
the ship.
Oh my god, that's so stupid.
But that's why it's
Wait,
awesome.
they're inside a kitty cat.
No, the cat rabbit turns into the ship. It has it's like a sentient hyper advanced
rabbit.
ship. Yeah. No, it's super cool
So
stuff.
it's a wraith ship. It's partially sentient, fixes itself.
Yeah, pretty much. So my point, I know
That's for retardus.
I know it's I'm
For retardus.
my point is wait till you get
Chameleon
it.
circuit.
Point is there's a lot of cool stuff that they can strip mine from anime, and unfortunately they would take an
Literally
element.
strip mine is the way to put it. They're
Well,
gonna
and the
destroy
problem
it.
is they'll take an element that's really unique and cool to the story, you know, or of the characters, and they take them and they crush them into the Hollywood mold of generic character arcs. You know, I had this thought. We'll talk about this later too. But
Are we talking about Death Note?
yes,
Is that what we're talking about? Death Note, the live action?
Death Note's a great
Make Light
example.
Yagami, Light Turner, the all-American boy.
Well, and also too, here's an example. Interesting thing. So anime, you probably know this, Christopher, because you've watched more anime. Anime has a trend of enemies becoming friends.
Yes.
Like a lot of times you have these high level opposing forces that come together. They sometimes the protagonist lose, sometimes the protagonist wins, and they become allies through their struggle. And I think that's what's interesting is I was telling I had this thought. Yeah, well, and there you go.
Yeah,
Example,
yeah.
That's why Avatar is very anime based, right? The redemption. He has a longer redemption. He actually has a redemption arc in his thought. In his story, a lot of times
A legit one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times the characters just they don't have so much of a redemption. Sometimes they do have a redemption, or they have a backstory that's really sad and tragic.
They have
and the
they
hero,
have a deathbed repentance most of the time. For other ones, they're like, "Oh, you know what? You've beaten me. You've kicked me to the curb. You got the sword next to me. You know
We're
what?
good.
I think we're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
So I had this joke, and I was like,
Except for you, Knives.
I was like,
Except for you.
I was like, if Superman was done by Japanese anime, after he defeated Lex Luthor once, they would have been best friends forever. And I like think of like the Lex Luthor / Superman relationship in Smallville, and how like they were like the on and off again best friends.
they kind
And
of
I'm
did
like,
that.
I'm like,
Yeah.
they would have been like the battle between the things. Superman would have won, and then you would actually have like whatever, because that show was so good at like teasing us the best friend relationship between Lex Luthor and Clark Kent. They were like best friends, and
such a good thought.
And you're like, and I'm like, if this is anime, they would have been best friends, and the real villain would have been the dad, as he was later on in the story.
Well, that's what made those first few seasons of Smallville,
good,
actually really compelling. Because you're kind of sitting, because you kind of had this moment, not to run away from it, but it's like you kind of have this moment where you kind of go, it's so frustrating to know that Lex Luthor knows Clark's hiding something, and it's that resentment that just kind of grows and grows, and it
they
becomes
did a good job with that.
And it's like, so it's like, that Clark probably, like, he really can't. It's like there's both like, well, you can't tell him because he's Lex Luthor, but you're like, but even in that time frame, you're like, but you can't, like, and it's his parents that kind of go, no, you can't do this kind of stuff because again, there's some stuff with Lionel, the dad, that convolutes things.
Yeah,
but that's what made it so good, because you're like, oh man, I wish you could be friends, but then like, and you're sitting there going, oh, that makes it deeper to kind of know there's this resentment, in a sense that even though he doesn't know he's Clark Kent most of the time, that there's this frustration.
And Philip, we're gonna do a longer talk on this in the future, but we'll do this really brief. You look at a show like Trigon. Phil's finished this one, and you can just see how it would get all the cool edges of it would be sanded down. And turned into
sanded. They'd be extracted. They'd be removed. It'd be
name only.
bad.
It'd be like, oh, this guy on a planet, and you would end up with like a generic story without that whole level. I mean, the nuance of that story, right? And the redemption arcs. They would lose all that. They would. And that's the sad thing is that
Wolfer would be ruined. So
I think
well, they'd all be caricatures of themselves, like they've done for everything. I mean, it's like you'll see Vash walk out once ago, like the whole like, oh, mommy, once, and then they'll be like, okay, and then kind of
it'll actually be this bad. Save Martha. Why did you say that name?
Why would you say that name?
What would you do that name? It's my mom's name. She adopted. Why does it matter to you? I can't believe that stupid Batman defeating Superman
Martha.
Is so dumb. So
yeah, there's it always should end with it always should end with Batman having a smart moment. Like, I like the way that they did it in the animated, what was it, the Justice War or whatever it is, even though most of that movie was crap.
It's stupid
still, but at least
at least you would just laser his brain.
No, that's I agree. That's Philip. The whole point of what he does is he just calls him Clark Kent because he knows his identity, and it just stops. And then Superman stops and then does X-ray vision through his mask and goes, "Oh, you're Bruce Wayne," and you're kind of like, you know what? That's probably the best way that it's like, I know you're Clark Kent.
I've seen that one. Yeah, that was better than,
like I said,
defeated you. Because you're like,
yeah, it's like that's the way that Batman would beat him in that sense. It's not even beating him. It's just. It's neutral.
Well, that got off topic.
Yes. So wrapping up today. Thank you for joining us. I know it was we segues. It's what we do. I'll just call it the segue episode. So
you didn't even answer my question. So
what was your question?
It was positive or negative. You told me you set your balls on the fence.
Neutral.
What about you?
Go ahead, Christopher.
Shepard.
I mean, it's like I'm not saying I'm like I want to be a fence sitter too, but I understand what Joel's saying. It's like it depends on what direction they want to go. So by all means, though, I can almost just see the dead cat bounce. I can see them trying to get something and thinking they're going to create something, and then it just goes
fair enough.
Poof, because the consumers still go, you know what? I am sick and tired of your crap, and it's crappy. It's crappy stuff you're selling to me. I don't care how you package it or where you're packaging it. When it's crap, I think people are finally going to go, I'm done. Right. I don't want to pay for it at all. That's wherever it is.
So see, that's why I think it's a positive turnover in the end, because I think it's going to force people to be more competitive, and the independent types of people, like Westfox would like to be in the future, and maybe other people, hopefully not crazy ones. Ryan Johnson, I'm looking at you. Will be able to make their presence known, and maybe we can get a new generation or a new mindset and culture out there that isn't purely butt kissing Hollywood centric. So I think there's a massive opportunity for positive difference.
I would agree. I just don't think it's in the first. I don't. At least your time frame is saying the next 5 years. I don't think you're going to see the big rise up in the next 5 years.
It's an interesting.
I'll put it that way. I see maybe a little up, down, and then I can see a longer ranging, maybe 10 years. I can see you saying that. I can see some massive kind of build up.
Interesting perspective, that's for sure. So, thank you everyone for joining us today.
Well, I'm here.
We have shared our opinions with you. Give us your thoughts down below. Please like and subscribe if you get a chance, and have a great evening.